If you're still moving, you ain't going to be dead.
But Ozzy, let me start with you. How are you? You've been through all this health.
He did the final Black Sabbath show. This is it. All four original guys. He died.
I finally had my last procedure 2 days ago.
Drug addict, alcoholic. There wasn't the idea of one drink never entered my head. You know, I just get hammered.
2 weeks later? That's insane, man.
The godfather of heavy metal and Prince of Darkness, Ozzy Osbourne, has passed away at the age of 76.
Picture this. Federal agents walking up to the front door of one of rock music's biggest legends. They're not there for autographs or to ask about his next album. They have search warrants, serious faces, and they're looking for something that could change everything we thought we knew about Ozzy Osbourne. What they discovered inside his mansion wasn't just shocking. It was something that even these experienced FBI agents weren't prepared for. Today, we're going to take you inside one of the most surprising stories in rock and roll history. We'll explore not just what was found, but how a poor kid from England became one of the richest and most famous musicians in the world, only to face challenges that money could never solve. This isn't just about fame and fortune. It's about secrets, struggles, and discoveries that will make you see the Prince of Darkness in a completely different light. Before we dive into what the FBI found, let's talk about just how wealthy and successful Ozzy Osbourne really became. By 2024, this legendary rocker had built an empire worth around $220 million. That's more money than most people could spend in 10 lifetimes. But how did a kid who grew up without even having a bathroom inside his house become one of the richest musicians on earth? The money started flowing when Ozzy became the lead singer of Black Sabbath, a band that would change rock music forever. Together with his bandmates, he helped create what we now call heavy metal music. The band's dark, heavy sound was unlike anything people had heard before. Black Sabbath sold millions and millions of albums around the world, and Ozzy's share of that success started building his fortune. But Ozzy didn't stop there. When he left Black Sabbath, many people thought his career was over. They were wrong, dead wrong. His first solo album, called Blizzard of Oz, became one of the biggest rock albums of all time. It featured the song Crazy Train, which is still played on rock radio stations every single day. That one album alone sold millions of copies and made Ozzy rich beyond his wildest dreams. Then came something nobody expected. Ozzy became a reality TV star. In the early 2000s, he and his family starred in a show called The Osbournes. People couldn't get enough of watching this wild rock star trying to be a regular dad and husband. The show was so popular that each family member made about $5 million per season. For a family of four, that meant $20 million just for letting cameras follow them around their house. Ozzy also created his own music festival called Ozfest. This wasn't just any concert. It was a traveling festival that brought together the biggest names in heavy metal music. The first Ozfest happened in 1996, and it quickly became one of the most successful music festivals in the world. By 2004, Ozfest had made over $100 million and sold more than 5 million tickets. Ozzy wasn't just performing music anymore. He was running a music empire. He also made millions by selling merchandise. T-shirts, posters, action figures, and anything else he could put his face or name on brought in about $50 million. Big companies like Guitar Hero and Samsung paid him huge amounts of money to work with them and use his music in their products. With all this money, Ozzy and his wife Sharon started buying incredible homes. They once paid $10 million for a mansion in Beverly Hills, one of the most expensive neighborhoods in California. Later, they bought another huge house in Los Angeles in an area called Hancock Park. This wasn't just any house. It was a historic mansion that they spent years fixing up and making perfect. They eventually put it up for sale for $18 million. They also own a beautiful country home in England, in a place called Buckinghamshire. This is where Ozzy says he feels most peaceful and happy. In recent years, both Ozzy and Sharon have talked about wanting to move back to England permanently because they don't like some of the changes happening in America. Ozzy's love for expensive things didn't stop at houses. He became obsessed with fast, powerful cars. One of his favorites was a Lamborghini Diablo, a car so fast and flashy that it looked like something from a science fiction movie. He also owned a Rolls-Royce Phantom, which is the kind of car that kings and queens ride in. Another prize in his collection was a Ferrari F40, considered by many to be one of the greatest sports cars ever made. But cars weren't his only passion. Ozzy also loved motorcycles. He had a custom-made motorcycle with a gas tank shaped like a cross and a seat made from alligator skin. He also rode powerful quad bikes, though this hobby nearly killed him in 2003 when he crashed and spent 8 days in a coma. Despite his wild reputation on stage, Ozzy had some surprisingly quiet hobbies at home. He loved gardening and said it helped him relax and think clearly. He collected modern art and enjoyed spending quiet evenings with Sharon in their English countryside home. He was also a huge fan of horror movies like The Exorcist and TV shows like The Walking Dead. His style never changed much. He always wore black clothes, leather jackets, and his famous round sunglasses. Ozzy was also an animal lover. He had a small dog named Rocky who lived with the family for 15 years before passing away. When Rocky died, Ozzy was heartbroken and said losing his little companion was one of the hardest things he'd ever experienced. But behind all the wealth, the mansions, and success, Ozzy was fighting battles that money couldn't solve. In recent years, his health began to fail. He was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, a condition that makes it hard to control your movements. He also suffered a terrible fall in 2019 that hurt his back so badly he needed multiple spine surgeries. In 2023, he announced what he hoped would be his final surgery, but the pain and difficulty moving continued to affect his daily life. Even with all these health problems, Ozzy kept fighting. He continued to spend time with his family, connect with his fans, and work on his music whenever he felt strong enough. His determination to keep going, despite everything working against him, showed the world that the Prince of Darkness was tougher than anyone imagined. But here's where our story takes a mysterious turn. After all the public struggles, the health battles, and the very public life, whispers began spreading online about a shocking discovery. People started talking about federal agents visiting Ozzy's mansion, though no official reports confirmed what happened. Some fans speculated it might be connected to old music industry secrets that had been hidden for decades. Others wondered if it involved something much more personal and unexpected. The truth is, when you're as famous and wealthy as Ozzy Osbourne, your life becomes an open book in some ways, but in other ways, it becomes even more private and mysterious. With all the fame and money he had accumulated over the years, was there something he was hiding behind the spotlight? Something that even his closest fans never knew about? To understand what might have been discovered, we need to look at the darker chapters of Ozzy's life, the struggles that shaped the man behind the legend. Ozzy Osbourne wasn't born into wealth and fame. His story begins in one of the poorest parts of Birmingham, England, where he entered the world on December 3rd, 1948. The house where Ozzy grew up was tiny and crowded. He lived there with his parents and 5 brothers and sisters, and they were so poor that they didn't even have a toilet inside the house. Everyone had to share one small space, and there was never enough money for the things other families took for granted. For young Ozzy, life was a daily struggle just to get by. School was torture for him. He had learning problems like dyslexia, which made reading and writing incredibly difficult. While other kids could easily read books and write essays, Ozzy struggled with every single word. The other children noticed his difficulties and made fun of him constantly. They also mocked his thick Birmingham accent, making him feel like he didn't belong anywhere. When Ozzy was just 11 years old, something happened that would haunt him for the rest of his life. He was attacked by bullies near his school, and the experience was so traumatic that it completely changed who he was. For years, he never told anyone what happened, but later in life, he admitted that this attack messed him up in ways he couldn't even explain. He always told his own children to speak up if something was wrong, because he didn't want them to carry the kind of pain he had carried alone for so many years. By the time he was 14, Ozzy had started using alcohol and drugs to deal with the darkness in his mind. He described his thoughts as being full of pain and sadness that he couldn't escape. The substances helped him forget, at least for a little while, but they also started a cycle of addiction that would follow him for decades. One night, when the pain became too much to bear, teenage Ozzy tried to end his own life. He was ready to give up on everything. But his father came home at exactly the right moment and saved him. That moment could have been the end of Ozzy's story before it ever really began. But somehow, he survived to fight another day. At 15, Ozzy dropped out of school and started working whatever jobs he could find. He worked in factories, on construction sites, and even in a slaughterhouse. None of these jobs made him happy or gave him any hope for the future. He felt trapped in a life that seemed to have no way out. When he was 17, Ozzy made a decision that could have ruined his life forever. He tried to steal clothes from a shop, got caught, and was sent to prison for 6 weeks. Being locked up with hardened criminals opened his eyes to a world he never wanted to be part of. He later said that those 6 weeks in prison scared him straight and made him realize he needed to find a different path in life. That different path came in 1968, when Ozzy got the chance to join a new band called Black Sabbath. Finally, he had found something he was good at, something that gave his life meaning and purpose. The band's dark, heavy music matched the darkness he felt inside, and for the first time in his life, he could turn his pain into something powerful and beautiful. Black Sabbath became hugely successful, and people all over the world fell in love with their music. But success didn't solve Ozzy's personal problems. Behind the scenes, the entire band was struggling with serious drug and alcohol addiction. The substances that had once helped Ozzy cope with his childhood pain were now threatening to destroy everything he had worked for. In 1979, things got so bad that Black Sabbath made the difficult decision to fire Ozzy. His behavior had become so unpredictable and dangerous that his own bandmates couldn't work with him anymore. Ozzy felt betrayed and angry, especially since he believed he wasn't the only one in the band with addiction problems. Being kicked out of Black Sabbath could have been the end of Ozzy's music career, but instead, it became a new beginning. He decided to start over as a solo artist, and in 1980, he released his first solo album, Blizzard of Oz. The album was a massive hit and proved that Ozzy could be successful on his own. During this time, Ozzy formed a close friendship with a young guitarist named Randy Rhoads. Randy was incredibly talented and helped Ozzy create some of his best music. The two men became like brothers, supporting each other through the challenges of life on the road. But in 1982, tragedy struck when Randy was killed in a plane crash while they were on tour. Ozzy was absolutely heartbroken and said that losing Randy was one of the worst moments of his life. The grief and guilt from that loss stayed with him forever. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, Ozzy continued to struggle with addiction. He used many different types of drugs and often mixed them with alcohol, creating dangerous combinations that could have killed him. Later, doctors discovered that Ozzy had rare genes that made his body process drugs differently than most people. This might have saved his life on several occasions, but it also meant that his addiction was even more complicated to treat. In 2006, Ozzy finally got serious about getting clean and sober. He entered treatment and began the long, difficult process of learning to live without drugs and alcohol. It wasn't easy, and there were setbacks along the way, but he was determined to change his life. Ozzy's concerts were legendary for their wild energy and shocking moments, but sometimes things went terribly wrong. In 1986, a fan died during one of his shows, and there were injuries and arrests that same night. For Ozzy, it was another reminder that his life wasn't just about music and fame. It was also filled with real consequences and real pain. His personal relationships also suffered because of his addiction and wild lifestyle. He admitted that he was a terrible husband to his first wife, Thelma Riley. He drank too much, used drugs constantly, and was unfaithful to her. Eventually, she couldn't take it anymore and divorced him. Even after he married Sharon Osbourne, his problems continued. In 1989, while under the influence of drugs, Ozzy did something that shocked even him. He tried to hurt Sharon physically. He was arrested and later said he was horrified when he learned what he had done. Sharon said if she had owned a gun that night, she might have used it to protect herself. Even after getting help for his violent behavior, Ozzy continued to be unfaithful to Sharon. She discovered one of his affairs when he accidentally sent her a text message that was meant for another woman. Sharon was devastated. But after their counseling together, they decided to work on their marriage and stay together. In 2003, Ozzy nearly died in a quad bike accident that left him with broken bones and severe injuries. He had to be revived twice, and spent 8 days in a coma. Around the same time, Sharon was fighting her own battle with cancer. Their children, Kelly and Jack, also struggled with drug addiction, but eventually got clean and turned their lives around. In 2020, Ozzy shared with the world that he had been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. He had also suffered a bad fall that made his chronic pain even worse. He described the moment of the fall as being hit with a flash of light and thought he might be paralyzed forever. After years of physical pain and declining health, Ozzy made one of the hardest decisions of his life. In February 2023, he announced that he was retiring from touring. He said he had spent nearly 50 years on the road and felt it was time to focus on his family and his health. But how did love find its way into such a dark and chaotic life? The story of how Sharon and Ozzy met and fell in love is one of the most unexpected parts of his entire journey. Sharon Osbourne first encountered Ozzy when she was just 18 years old. Her father was a music manager, and Ozzy had come to his office to discuss management for Black Sabbath. Sharon later admitted that it definitely wasn't love at first sight. Her first impression of the band was that they looked very strange and rough. They were hairy, smelled bad, and acted completely different from the polished American artists she was used to working with. However, that same night, Sharon saw Black Sabbath perform live for the first time, and everything changed. She was completely amazed by the power and intensity of their performance. Even though it was unlike any music she had heard before, she found herself drawn to it, and especially to Ozzy. It wasn't until 1980 that Sharon and Ozzy actually started dating. They had been working together since 1979, and their relationship slowly evolved from business to personal. Sharon said what attracted her to Ozzy wasn't his looks or his fame. It was his personality. She found him incredibly funny and quick-witted, but also vulnerable and open about his feelings. That combination of humor and sensitivity made her fall in love with him. When they decided to get married, both Sharon and Ozzy were starting from nothing. Ozzy had lost everything in his divorce from his first wife, and Sharon was dealing with serious financial and legal problems caused by her father's business practices. Her father had put all his companies and contracts in Sharon's name, which seemed like a sign of trust at first. But when bills went unpaid and taxes weren't filed, it was Sharon who was held responsible, not her father. The situation got so bad that tax authorities put yellow tape around Sharon's house, showing that she was in serious legal trouble. Her father had done this so he could travel the world and avoid responsibility while leaving Sharon to face the consequences of his actions. So when Sharon and Ozzy started their life together, they had nothing but each other. They were both broke, both dealing with legal problems, and both trying to rebuild their lives from rock bottom. But their connection was strong enough to survive all of these challenges. Through more than 4 decades together, Sharon has been Ozzy's manager, his wife, his best friend, and his partner in everything. She has stood by him through addiction, health problems, career ups and downs, and personal mistakes. Ozzy has said many times that Sharon is more than his wife. She's his soulmate and his teammate in life. Their love story isn't perfect or fairy tale romantic, but it's real and it's lasted through everything life has thrown at them. Sharon once said that being without Ozzy is unthinkable, and their bond has helped carry them through all the dark times they've faced together. Over his incredible career spanning more than 40 years, Ozzy says it feels like he has lived 3 completely different lives. And honestly, when you look at everything he's been through, that's not an exaggeration. He went from being a poor, troubled kid in Birmingham to becoming one of the most influential musicians in rock history. Ozzy didn't just become another famous singer. He helped create an entirely new type of music. With 13 solo albums and countless unforgettable performances, he played a huge role in shaping what heavy metal sounds like today. From the very beginning, Ozzy loved spooky themes and scary stories, which he brought into his music in ways that no one had ever done before. Some of the craziest stories in rock history involve Ozzy doing shocking things on stage and off. The most famous incident happened when he bit the head off a bat during a concert. He thought someone in the audience had thrown a rubber toy bat at him, but it turned out to be a real, live bat. Ozzy said it was a huge mistake, and he had to get painful rabies shots afterward to make sure he didn't get sick. There was also the time he bit the head off a dove during a meeting at a record company. These wild moments, along with many others, added to his reputation as someone who would do absolutely anything for shock value. But Ozzy always insisted that these things weren't planned publicity stunts. They happened because he was under the influence and wasn't thinking clearly. Throughout his career, Ozzy has been completely honest about his struggles with drugs and alcohol. He admitted that many of the worst things that happened in his life were directly caused by his addiction. He once said, "When I'm sober, I don't walk into CBS Records and bite the head off a dove." He went to the famous Betty Ford Treatment Center multiple times, but often relapsed afterward. He described how difficult it was to face the real world after getting clean, saying he didn't want to be around people or deal with the responsibilities of normal life. Despite what the media often portrayed, there was always a caring, thoughtful man underneath all the headlines and crazy stories. Ozzy made serious mistakes, but he genuinely tried to be kind to people and help others whenever he could. In 2023, Ozzy made the difficult decision to officially retire from touring. He said he had spent nearly 50 years traveling around the world performing, and he had missed out on watching his children grow up, now that his grandchildren. He wanted to focus on spending time with family and being present for the important moments he missed when his own kids were young. Ozzy's impact went far beyond just music. He also became a reality TV pioneer with The Osbournes, a show that gave fans an intimate look at his family life. Together with Sharon and their children Kelly and Jack, Ozzy opened up his home to television cameras in a way that no major rock star had ever done before. The show was groundbreaking for its time and introduced Ozzy to a whole new generation of fans who might never have discovered his music otherwise. It ran for 4 successful seasons and showed the world that behind all the wild stories and scary stage shows, Ozzy was really just a regular dad trying to figure out how to raise his kids and make his marriage work. Through everything, the addiction, the health problems, the career highs and lows, the family struggles, Sharon has been by Ozzy's side. He has said many times that she is more than his wife. She is his partner in every sense of the word. Sharon has also said that she can't imagine life without him, and their strong bond has helped them survive challenges that would have destroyed most relationships. But Ozzy says the biggest love of his life has always been his fans. He once shared, "My audience is better than any drug, alcohol, sex, woman, or relationship. It's the best love I've had in my life." That connection with his fans is what kept him going through the darkest periods of his life. As long as people want to see him perform and he had the strength to get on stage, he would keep doing what he loved most. Now, with all this background about Ozzy's incredible life, his struggles, his success, and his secrets, we come back to the mysterious question that started our story. What exactly did the FBI find when they came to Ozzy Osbourne's mansion? What was hidden there that shocked even experienced federal agents? The truth is, while rumors and whispers have spread across the internet about the supposed discovery, no official reports have ever confirmed that the FBI actually searched Ozzy's home or found anything shocking. These stories appear to be speculation and internet gossip rather than verified facts. But the fascination with this story tells us something important about how we see celebrities like Ozzy Osbourne. When someone has lived such a public life, filled with so many wild stories and dramatic moments, we almost expect there to be hidden secrets and shocking revelations. We wonder what goes on behind closed doors, what private struggles they face, and what parts of their story they've never shared with the world. In Ozzy's case, the real story of his life is already more dramatic and shocking than most fiction. His journey from a poor, abused child in Birmingham to becoming the Prince of Darkness and one of rock's biggest legends is filled with enough real drama to satisfy anyone's curiosity. The battles he fought with addiction, the tragic losses he experienced, the health challenges he's faced, and the way he's managed to maintain a loving marriage and family through it all, these are the real revelations of Ozzy Osbourne's life. They're not hidden secrets that require FBI investigations to uncover. They're the open, honest story of a man who has shared his struggles with the world in hopes that his experiences might help others. Perhaps the most shocking thing about Ozzy Osbourne isn't what might be hidden in his mansion, but what he's revealed about himself over the years. He's shown us that even the wildest, most successful rock stars are human beings dealing with pain, loss, love, and the challenge of trying to be better than they were yesterday. His story reminds us that fame and fortune don't solve life's problems. They just give you different problems to solve. Behind every legendary figure is a real person with real struggles, real relationships, and real dreams for the future. Today, as Ozzy faces his health challenges and enjoys his retirement from touring, he continues to be an inspiration to millions of fans around the world. His legacy isn't just about the music he created or the records he sold. It's about the courage he showed in facing his demons, the honesty he displayed in sharing his struggles, and the determination he demonstrated in never giving up, no matter how dark things got. Whether or not federal agents ever actually visit his mansion, the real discovery about Ozzy Osbourne is that he's exactly who he's always claimed to be, just a regular guy who happened to become a rock and roll legend, complete with all the problems and all the humanity that comes with being human. His story continues to fascinate us because it's ultimately a story about survival, about love, about the power of music to transform pain into something beautiful, and about the possibility of redemption no matter how far you've fallen. That's the real shock, the real discovery, and the real truth about the Prince of Darkness. What do you think about this incredible journey through Ozzy Osbourne's life? Were you surprised by any of the details we shared about his struggles and triumphs? Have you been following his story for years? Or are you just discovering what an amazing and complex person he really is? We want to hear from you in the comments section below. Share your thoughts about Ozzy's life, his music, and the lessons we can learn from his incredible story. If this video opened your eyes to something new about the Prince of Darkness, hit that like button to let us know. And if you want to see more deep dives into the lives of legendary musicians and celebrities, make sure to subscribe to our channel and ring that notification bell so you never miss our latest content. Don't forget to share this video with your friends, especially if they're fans of rock music or incredible life stories. There's so much more to explore about the fascinating lives of our favorite stars, and we're here to bring you all the details, all the drama, and all the truth behind the headlines. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey through the life of Ozzy Osbourne. Until next time, keep rocking, and we'll see you in the next video.